My mother pushed her Bible inside her box the day the pastor entered our room, and my heart started beating like something was chasing it. Her hand was shaking small, but her face was calm. I stood there holding the bed sheet, confused, scared, and angry at the same time. This was the same Bible she never allowed to leave her pillow. This was the same Bible that woke the whole house every morning. That moment did not make sense, and it did not want to make sense. Before that day, our house had rules that nobody wrote down. One of them was that my mother read her Bible every morning, even when rain was beating roof like drum, even when Nipa took light and the room was hot, even when she was sick. The sound of her voice reading was the first thing we heard every day. I knew Psalms without knowing how to read because of her. I knew Proverbs before I knew multiplication table. My mother kept her Bible under her pillow like something precious. She said if her head rested on it, bad dreams would not enter her sleep. When I was younger, I believed her. Maybe I still did. The day she stopped reading, the house felt wrong. I woke up waiting to hear her voice. Nothing came. I waited small. Still nothing. I stood up and peeped into her room. She was lying on her side, facing the wall. Her eyes were open, but she was not reading. The Bible was still under her pillow, but it was quiet, like it was sleeping too. I told myself maybe she was tired. Maybe her leg pain was worrying her. I went to school and came back. The next morning, still no Bible. The morning after that, still no Bible. That was when fear entered me. I asked her one morning if she was feeling fine. She nodded. I asked if I should bring a Bible. She said no. Just one word, no. That word felt heavier than the bucket of water I carried from the well that day. I started watching her more. She ate little, she talked little, she stared at the wall like she was watching something only she could see. The Bible stayed under her pillow, untouched. I felt like the house was holding its breath. When the pastor said he would come to pray, I felt relief. I believed once prayers start, everything would return to normal. My mother would read again, the house would breathe again. That was the day she moved the Bible. As the pastor knocked, my mother sat up. She reached under her pillow, brought out the Bible, and put it inside her wooden box. She closed the box slowly and pushed it away from the bed. I wanted to stop her. I wanted to ask her why, but my mouth could not open. When the pastor entered, he smiled. He did not know that something had already broken before he arrived. The pastor sat on the chair close to my mother's bed and started praying like everything was normal. He talked about healing and strength. He talked about faith that does not shake. He talked about hope that never dies. I stood at the corner of the room holding my two hands together, listening, but my eyes kept moving to the wooden box. That was where my mother's Bible was. It felt like something important was missing from the room, like when a generator stops suddenly and everywhere becomes quiet. My mother did not close her eyes while the pastor prayed. She stared at the wall. Her face was not angry. It was not sad. It was just tired, the kind of tired that sleep cannot cure. When the pastor finished praying, he wiped sweat from his face and smiled like a man who has done good work. He asked my mother if she had anything to say. The room went quiet. I felt heat inside my chest. I did not want her to talk. I wanted her to just say amen and let the prayer end. But my mother cleared her throat and started talking slowly. She said she had prayed all her life. She said she prayed when her husband was strong and when he became weak. She said she prayed when food was plenty and when food was not enough. She said she prayed when her son fell sick and did not stand up again. As she spoke, her voice did not shake. That scared me more than crying would have. She said she was not angry with God. She said she was tired of talking like everything was fine when her heart was not fine. She said opening the Bible now would make her lie, and she did not want to lie to God. The pastor tried to talk.
He said faith is not by feeling. He said belief must stand even when pain comes. My mother shook her head small. She said she knew all that. She said she taught many people those same words, but she said knowing something and feeling it are not the same thing. I felt shame enter me. I felt like my mother was saying something wrong in front of a holy man. I wanted the ground to open and swallow me. I wanted the pastor to shout or correct her or pray harder. But he just sat there, quiet, like a man who has lost his road. When the pastor left, the house felt heavier. Nobody talked. My younger brothers looked at me like I should explain what had happened. I did not know what to say. I was angry with my mother. I was angry with God. I was angry with myself for not understanding. That night I could not sleep. I kept thinking of the Bible inside the box. I kept thinking of my mother's words. I wondered if faith could get tired like a human being. I wondered if prayer could stop working. I wondered if God was listening when silence filled the house. My mother did not read her Bible that night. She did not pray aloud. She just slept facing the wall, and the house stayed quiet, like it was waiting for something to happen.
After the pastor left, people started coming to our house. Not all at once, but one after another, like ants finding sugar. Church women came first. They wore long faces and tied their wrappers tight. They prayed short prayers and talked long talks. They said my mother should not allow the devil to use tiredness to enter her heart. They said faith is not something you keep when life is sweet. They said my mother was strong and should not fall now. My mother listened to all of them. She nodded her head small. She thanked them, but she did not open the wooden box. The Bible stayed inside. One woman asked me quietly if my mother had offended someone or if something strange had happened. I shook my head. I did not know what to say. Everybody wanted answers. I had none. At night, when everywhere was quiet, I heard my mother coughing. I stood up and went to her room. She was sitting on the bed, holding her chest. Sweat covered her face. Fear grabbed me hard. I ran to call my brothers. By the time we came back, she was breathing slowly again. That night, I sat on the floor beside her bed. I watched her sleep. I watched the wooden box. I felt like opening it myself and bringing out the Bible, but my hand refused to move. It felt like touching it would break something that could not be repaired. The next morning, my mother did not wake up early. When she finally did, she asked me to bring her water. I did. Our eyes met, and for the first time in days, I saw tears in her eyes. Not many, just 2. They rolled down and disappeared into her wrapper. She said she was scared. She said she had prayed for strength for many years, and now she felt empty. She said waking up every day to read the Bible started to feel like work, not faith. She said her heart was tired. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell her God does not like weak faith. I wanted to remind her of all the things she taught us. But when I looked at her thin arms and tired face, my words died in my mouth. Later that day, my uncle came. He talked about doctors and hospitals. He talked about medicine and tests. He said prayer is good, but action is also good. My mother agreed to go to the hospital. That surprised everyone. At the hospital, the smell of medicine filled my nose. Nurses moved around fast. Doctors talked in low voices. They said words I did not understand. Weak. Infection, rest. As we left, my mother held my hand tight. I felt like she was holding on to life itself. Back at home, she slept for a long time. I sat outside watching the sky change color. I realized something then. My mother's silence was not pride, it was pain. She was not pushing God away. She was standing still because moving forward felt too heavy. That night, before sleeping, she asked me to move the wooden box closer to her bed. I did. She did not open it, but she rested her hand on it as she slept.
and for the first time in many days, the house felt like it exhaled small.
The sickness stayed. Some days my mother looked better. Some days she looked like she was fading in front of our eyes. The hospital drugs filled one corner of the room. Tablets, syrups, papers with doctors writing that looked like drawings. I became the one waking up early, not to pray, but to boil water, wash plates, and remind my brothers to get ready for school. The house changed, and I changed with it. People stopped coming every day. When nothing dramatic happens, people return to their lives. Only a few church women still came sometimes. They prayed quietly now. Nobody asked my mother to read her Bible again. Everybody was careful, like they were walking on broken glass. One afternoon, I found my mother sitting alone, staring at the wooden box. The room was quiet. No radio, no talking, just her breathing. I stood at the door watching her. I could see her fingers moving like she wanted to open the box but was afraid. I remembered all the time she forced me to read Bible verses when I wanted to play. I remembered how angry I used to get. I remembered how she said the word is food. I wondered what happens when someone stops eating spiritual food. Do they grow weak like the body? That evening, the light went off suddenly. Nipa took light, and everywhere went dark. My brothers complained. I brought out candle and lit it. The small flame made shadows dance on the wall. My mother called me to sit beside her. She told me about the night her son died, the one we hardly talked about. She said she read the Bible till morning that night. She said she believed with everything inside her that he would wake up. She said when he did not wake up, something inside her cracked, but she kept reading, hoping the crack would close. She said every time she opened the Bible after that, she remembered that night. She said the words started sounding heavy, not comforting, heavy. She said she hid that feeling and kept reading so nobody would know. As she talked, tears rolled down her face. I held her hand. I felt her pain into my own body. I understood then that her silence did not start the day she stopped reading. It started many years ago. That night, after Nipa brought light back, I heard a soft sound from a room. I stood up and listened. It was the sound of paper moving, slowly, carefully. I went closer and peeked. The wooden box was open. The Bible was on her lap, but she was not reading aloud. She was just looking at one page. Her lips were not moving. Her eyes were full. When she noticed me, she did not close it. She rested her hand on the open page and looked at me. She did not say anything. I did not say anything, too. She closed the Bible and placed it beside a pillow, not under it. That small change stayed in my mind like a mark. Something had shifted, even if it was small. And I knew whatever would happen next would not be the same as before. My mother grew weaker after that night. Not in a sudden way, but in a slow way that makes you notice every small change. She slept more. She talked less. Her voice became soft, like it was afraid to disturb life. The Bible stayed beside her pillow. Sometimes it was open. Sometimes it was closed. She never read it aloud again. One morning, I woke up and knew something was wrong before anyone said anything. The house felt empty, even though everybody was inside. My mother was awake, but her eyes looked far, like she was already leaving us little by little. I sat beside her and held her hand. It felt light. She asked me to bring her water. After drinking, she asked me to bring the Bible. I brought it and placed it on her lap. She rested her hand on it and closed her eyes. She told me she did not stop believing. She said believing is not always loud. She said sometimes faith sits quietly and waits. She said she was no longer afraid of God. She was afraid of pretending. She asked me to promise her something. She asked me to promise that I would never force faith on someone whose heart is tired. She said people carry pain they do not show. She said God understands silence better than people think. Later that day, she slept and did not wake up again. The house filled with people, crying, prayers, noise. The pastor came again. He spoke about heaven and rest. He said my mother fought a good fight. I listened, but my mind was on the Bible. When we cleaned her room, I opened the Bible to see if she marked any page. There was no pen mark, no writing, but it was open to the book of Job. The pages looked worn like they had been touched many times. I closed it gently and placed it back beside her pillow for the last time. At the burial, people talked about her strong faith. They talked about how she never missed morning devotion. They did not know the truth, or maybe they knew and chose not to say it. After everything, when the house became quiet again, I took the Bible and placed it on my own bed. I did not open it that night. I just rested my hand on it like my mother used to do. I learned something from her silence. Faith is not performance. Prayer is not noise. Sometimes the deepest belief does not speak. It just stays. And the Bible my mother did not read taught me more than all the mornings she read it aloud.